What is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how I color grade my videos in Premiere Pro. Let's get into the video. So if you are new here, my name is Jacob Scott. I make photography and filmmaking videos like this one every single week. So if that is something of interest to you, be sure to go down below and hit the subscribe button. Also, this video was as requested, so thank you for the request for one thing. And if you have any videos that you would like to see, be sure to go down below, hit the like button, and comment in the comments what video you would like to see. But with that out of the way, let's get into Premiere Pro, like I said last time. So a couple things in here before we actually get started. One is you're going to want to make sure you are in your color tab up here. If you do not see all these tabs, go ahead and click the window button, workspaces, and you can just hit the color tab right there. Second thing, the scopes that I'm going to be using today is going to be the vector scope YUV in the waveform Luma. If you don't see the waveform Luma and you see waveform RGB, go ahead and go from RGB to Luma in the waveform type. Now also, don't get scared by these scopes over here. They're actually pretty simple, and essentially waveform Luma compared to RGB, the Luma is going to show you the brightness values, whereas the RGB is going to show you color values and brightness values of those color values. So Luma is the easier one to understand, and we don't need to use RGB for anything in this. Last and finally, go down into your media down here, whatever you have, on an open space, right click and hit new adjustment layer, and you're going to put that adjustment layer above whatever clips you want this color grade to affect. So as for right now, I want it to affect this one, but let's say I had more clips like this, I could go ahead and just bring it out, and it's going to affect all those clips down below. So instead of copying pasting your Lumetri Color across a bunch of clips, you can just put it on adjustment layer and have it affect all the clips that you want. But now with all that out of the way, the first thing that I'm going to do with adjustment layer selected is start doing a basic correction. So what I'm going to do is start to get the exposure sort of how I want it and how I want my contrast and saturation to be. So what I'm going to start doing is just bringing up the contrast a little bit. And as you can see on our scopes over here, if you look here on the waveform Luma, you're going to notice that there's 100 and 0. 100 is pure white, whereas 0 is pure black. So 100, it really doesn't go above 100 because it doesn't get whiter than pure white, and it doesn't go below 0 because it doesn't get blacker than pure black. So if you notice here, I have this big spike of brightness in here. That's going to be this lamp back here. Now I know that's pretty close to pure white, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my highlights just a touch and bring up my whites just a touch. Now highlights are affecting the bright things in your image, whereas the whites are affecting the absolute brightest things in your image, whereas shadows are affecting the darker parts of your image, whereas blacks are affecting the absolute darkest parts of your image. So same thing like I did there with our whites and highlights, I brought them up. I'm going to pretty much do the same thing with the shadows and blacks. I'm going to bring our shadows down just a touch. And I know these speakers here are pretty close to pure black, so I'm going to bring our blacks down. As you can see on our scope over here, it's going to start touching 0. And pretty much once it starts to do that, I'm not going to bring it below that anymore. And as for saturation for this shot, I think it's plenty saturated. Don't need to really adjust that at all. But that is pretty much step 1, basic correction. Now for step 2, I'm going to go ahead and do a little basic correction on our skin tones. So how I'm going to do that is select the layer beneath the adjustment layer, go to effects controls, and hit this oval mask here. Now all you're going to do is drag this oval mask right over your face here, and want to make it just so you see your skin tones just like that. And if now I go back into my scopes, you're going to see that on our Lumetri scopes on our waveform, you're going to see brightness value I sit between 70 and 80. That's pretty much where I want it to sit. Depending on your skin, you may be sitting anywhere from 80 to around 60, or maybe even a little darker or even a little brighter. Now, the most important one is this one right here, our vector scope YUV. Now, as you notice, there's this line here, and I'm pretty much sitting perfectly on that line. That's where most people should be sitting, or should be sitting pretty much right around that line. If they're sitting way over on this side, there's something crazy wrong with your skin tones or with whatever you've done so far. So you want most people sitting right there. Now, as for me, I know that I sit a little bit more towards the red side, so I want to sit just off the right of this. So I'm going to change my tint here. As you can see, if I bring it to right towards the magenta, you're going to see on my scopes here, it's going to change out towards the right. And if I bring it left, it's going to change more towards the greens. So like I said a little bit more towards red. So I'm going to change this to about 10 there. Now, as you can see, from there to there, if you look before, my skin tone actually looked pretty green, and whereas that looks actually about dead on there. That is just step 2. And from here, what you can go ahead and do is go ahead and just delete this mask right here. And then as you can see, my skin tones are actually looking pretty good from here. But that was step 2. Let's go right into step 3. Now, step 3, I'm going to actually dive in. Now, step 3, I'm actually going to get into my color grade. So pretty much where most of this is going to happen is in the curves panel here. Again, make sure you have your adjustment layer selected now. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to make a slight S curve just to add in a little bit more contrast here. So if I bring up the right side, it's going to bring up my highlights, whereas if I bring up the left side, it's going to bring up my shadows. So I'm going to bring down the left side just a little bit and bring up the right side just a little bit. Also, I'm going to take this bottom one here and bring it up just to about there. That looks pretty good to me. Now, where most of my color grade actually lies is in our hue saturation curves. Now, this is pretty much just like HSL and Lightroom. Instead of being sliders, it's these curves here. So first thing is this curve here. You'll notice if I bring it down, it adjusts saturation, whereas this curve here, if I bring it down, it adjusts our hue. So first things first, I'm going to start in the saturation here. I know that I want to bring up the saturation of my blues and aquas, and I know that I'm going to want to bring up the saturation of my oranges as well. So I'm going to make that there, bring up the saturation of our oranges. And I know that I don't really want a ton of purple or magenta in here, so I'm going to bring those down. And I don't really want a ton of yellow or green, so I'm also going to bring this down. This is going to help introduce more of a blockbuster look, so we're really punching our aquas and blues and our oranges. Those are two really nice contrasting colors, and seeing that a lot of orange and red tones sit in your skin tones, it looks good to punch the opposite color, which would be your blues and aquas, and make those really pop out as well. So as you can see, so far, I think that's starting to look pretty good, but there's a few other things that I'm going to do with our hue slider down here. Essentially, I'm going to do almost the same thing here, but for a little bit different reasons. So our hue slider is going to, like I said, adjust the hue. So I'm just going to make our blues and aquas look more towards the aqua. So you can see if I bring it up here, if you notice really mainly on our timeline here on the computer, if I have it sitting normal, they're more blues, whereas I bring it up, it makes it just a little bit more aqua. Excuse me. Hello? All right, so where was I? I'm going to bring our blues and aquas more towards our aqua, and also this light right up here, I don't like the color of pretty much at all. So if you notice, there's these little color droppers right above each one. I'm gonna grab the color dropper for this and select the color of that light. You're gonna notice it brings up these dots right here, right on our hue versus hue. As you can see, if I bring this up, it's going to affect the color of our light, but it's also affecting just a little bit of the skin tone. So be careful with this. If you are using this, use it very little, especially if you're working in the same color space as what your skin tones would be. So what I'm going to do is, normally they'd be sitting here. I'm going to bring them up just so they're a little bit more orange and a little bit more into the pink area. Whereas before, if we turn that off and back on, you're going to notice they looked really green before. One more thing that I'm going to do, other than that, it's pretty good, this Luma versus saturation slider. So essentially, I'm going to make our brightest things not have any saturation, because essentially whites should not have any color in them. Same with blacks, because they should not have essentially any color on them. So I'm just gonna make our far rights, which would be our highlights and our whites, and our far lefts, which would be our blacks over here. Just make one dot there and bring the other one down. You notice if I bring this up, now our lamp up there is yellow, which does not look right, whereas if I bring it all the way down, it's gonna make our yellow turn into a pretty much pure white over there. Now, that is pretty much done right there. The only thing that I'm gonna do is go back and check my skin tones one more time, because from what I just did may have changed them a little bit, and I'm sure that they're probably sitting a little bit more towards red now, so I do need to bring them back just a little bit. But other than that, that is pretty much how I go about color grading my videos. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to go down below and hit the like and subscribe button. Also, I am doing a giveaway right now, so be sure to go down below. Check out the first link in the description, giving away a $50 Adorama gift card, and you can get entered. Well, I'm forgetting how to speak here. You can get entered in multiple ways into this giveaway. So like I said, be sure to go check that out. First link in the description. But that's pretty much it for this video. I will see you later. Hopefully that was actually still recording.